Yeah, certainly it's nice to be able to talk basketball again. A little bit of a break in the action here, and certainly a different holiday break for us all. Typically, the practice after we come back from a shorter break, usually 4 or 5 days, is designed to work off mom's Christmas cookies and work out the kinks. But after taking close to 2 weeks off, it was a little bit of a different challenge. And the guys have been great. We have a week of practice under our belt at this point. We're now in a game week, and we're preparing for an opponent. That at this point has played 2 games. Two league games, and a team that was picked at the top of our league to win the league, and very talented. That's going to present some challenges. So the big thing for us coming out of the break was to focus on red flash basketball and getting back into a little bit of a rhythm and getting our win to us. And today we'll turn the page and focus a little bit more on LIU. But the break came at I think at a good time for a lot of people, players and coaches included. 2020 has been a crazy year for a lot of people in a lot of different venues. The positive and the spin on it, and the great thing is our kids got to spend the holidays with their family, and if nothing else, they got to finish 2020 with some loved ones, and we're back at it, and anxious and excited and grateful for the opportunity to be able to get on the court again.
All right, Corey, Pete, whatever you got.
Rob, what was the schedule? What did you guys do? So like when did finals end? And then when did the guys get to go home and come back? What were some of those dates?
Yeah, well, our finals were over the day before Thanksgiving. So
Okay.
the night that we played Pitt, that was our last scheduled final, and was designed back in the summer to end school at that point. So once that came around, we were in break mode, certainly a longer break than normal. We played the games, into Virginia, then down. Had the Robert Morris one postponed, and then played Mount St. Mary's. And then after Mount St. Mary's, we were scheduled to play St. Bonaventure. And then at St. Bonaventure, after St. Bonaventure, after that game was canceled, we went on the pause and decided to send the kids home at that point with not a game on the schedule really until January 7th. So from St. Bonaventure until the 27th, they had about a 2-week break before they came back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so let me follow that up, okay? Everybody wants to play, and it's going to be a month before you get to play again. But was this a good thing then? Because your kids got to go home. I know from my perspective, seeing your kids stuck up there on campus for a month to play 2-3 games, is this better for you? Even though you got a month off, that your kids got to have a little bit of normal life for the last few weeks.
That's an excellent point, and that's one of the reasons why I was adamant on getting them home, because it could have been very easy. We could have tried to try to do the quarantine and the isolation up here in Loretto. But the timing of it was, I wanted these guys to have a little bit of a break mentally. As much as we wanted them there for basketball, Corey, and that's important. We're coaches. We're in the middle of the season. I thought it was important for their mental well-being just to get home, even if it was an extra, 4 or 5 days. We had some time at the back end to get back into shape, and that was the primary reason we decided to do it when we did. And obviously there were some people above me, the league and certainly administration here that that determine that when we need to pause, when we don't. I don't make those calls. That's that's the AD and that's the Northeast Conference. But I was excited to be able to give our guys the opportunity to go home and spend some time, and recharge mentally. I mean, it's been it's certainly been a different semester, for these guys. And yeah, I hope that in the long run it'll be good for them.
I just have one more. Sorry, Peter, but one more along these lines, Rob. When you send them home, was there a concern that now they are in more of an uncontrolled environment, and with the testing and COVID, how much of a concern was that things could have gotten a lot worse if there could have been some positives when these guys went home?
One of the things that when we started this out, I decided I wasn't going to have these guys live in fear. I think a little fear is good, Corey, and by no means is fear absent from what any of us do, right? I wanted to try to teach them how to be responsible, how to be responsible individually for their actions. Okay. And, I can't control what they do outside of the practice here, but they're great. And these kids have been phenomenal, Corey, have been unbelievable since we started this thing. You know, the ability to test over and over again and deal with positive and negative and, all of those things, they've been fantastic. But once they leave the gym, I really can't control what they're doing. That's I wanted to teach them some personal accountability, some personal responsibility. And yes, is there a risk when they go home? Absolutely. But to not give our guys that opportunity to be around family during the holidays, that was a risk I was willing to take, and that was the trade-off. So in this situation, I hope that our guys come out of it, Corey, with an understanding of the next time they're faced with a challenge, or the next time that they understand that, hey, I have some part in this, that they take that pride and that personal accountability and that personal responsibility. And so far, they've been phenomenal with that, Corey. And you can't. And here's the thing: even the best, you could be the most cautious. You could be the person that always wash your hands, always wear your mask, always. And I don't know that anybody has completely escaped this virus, right? I mean, I think trying to control something that you really can't completely control would have given our guys more disappointment. So trying to teach them, hey, listen, do your part, wear a mask, don't go to large gatherings, make sure that you stay, the CDC requirements to stay 6 feet away, and all of those things that people talk about. But not to have them, be with their families. I just think that, that was an important, this time of the year, I think it was important for them. And yeah, there was a risk, but the trade-off of them being home was well worth it.
Hey, Coach, were you able to take some time during the break to refresh like your players?
Absolutely. I told these guys, like, I'm going to take advantage of it. I'm going to try to do some things that I've never done before. I've helped my father with my grandmother's cookie recipe the last couple of years as a little bit of a break during finals. Well, I did that again this year, but I decided to make them on my own. I decided to give them a shot and see how Grandma Jean's sand tarts would turn out. And I did it. I had a chance to do that. And, over quarantine, I developed a little bit of a woodworking hobby. And when I had all this wood, like in my head, I had bought, and I decided to revamp our laundry room. So I built a laundry table, and I asked for some power tools for Christmas. And I'm 43 years old, and I finally got an impact driver and a saw. I tried to fill that time. My wife knew that if I didn't do something, I drive her batty. So I think she gave me permission to at least try to chop up part of the laundry room, which no one sees anyway, really. But it's been good. I got a chance to shovel snow. One of the things that I haven't done since high school is enjoy a snowstorm. Because every time it snows, I'm either at a game or going to a game, or I've got to travel somewhere. And the times I do get to enjoy it, Peter, it's a quick run through the snow blower, and I'm up the mountain. And unfortunately, we live in a neighborhood where we've got a lot of great neighbors. And there was a year where I didn't even use my snow blower because by the time I got home, my neighbor had already cleared the driveway off. So I was in seventh heaven, shoveling snow and building snowmen and playing in the snow with my kids. It was certainly something I wasn't used to, because usually it's 3 or 4 days you're back at it and ready to turn the page for the next year. So yeah, I mean, we tried to take advantage of it as a staff, and and certainly it was a unique situation for us, but it gave me an opportunity to be with my family and do some things that I haven't done in a long time, and really in my lifetime. So I just hope the laundry table holds up, and so far no one's got sick from the cookies.
Okay, cool. I want to get back to the get in shape whole part of this thing. So, in a normal season, how long do you think does it take for a team to be in like optimum playing shape, and how does that compare to kind of this season, not only with the COVID restrictions but the long break?
Yeah, it's been that's the biggest challenge, is how to keep a rhythm with being in shape and being ready to play. And we had one situation early in the year where we didn't have any scrimmages before we played Pitt, so we didn't know what kind of game shape we were in. Usually you have exhibitions and scrimmages leading up to your first game, but we didn't have that. Kind of a similar situation here. We had a little bit of an extended break, and usually it takes us a day or two to get back into shape on a normal holiday break. When we're gone for maybe 4 to 5 days tops, it takes us 1 or 2 days to get back into a rhythm. But this one, I knew that it was going to take us a little bit more. So really, for the first 5 or 6 practices, we really didn't do a ton of contact. It was more up and down, and just trying to get the guys a lot of 5-on-0 stuff. and really wanted to make sure we had a good foundation from a conditioning standpoint before we went into any live stuff. Because the big thing again for us is making sure that we're ready to play and we're healthy. January 7th and January 8th, and to come back and try to jump right into it. Because the other thing is, when these kids went home, a lot of them didn't have access to gyms or weight rooms, or because of the restrictions that were placed on, not just here in Pennsylvania, but in other states. You have other states in Jersey and Maryland. So there were some challenges from that standpoint. I think we're at this point we're pretty good. Now the next step for us is to get our wind up and be ready to compete. I'm sure there'll be some cobwebs when we jump this thing up, God willing, on Thursday.
I have one more for you, Rob. Obviously, winning and competing, you want to win. But does a lot of that just take a back seat this year specifically because of everything that you've just taught? How much of this year is a life lesson as opposed to trying to win the NEC and get to the NCAA tournament?
Each season is a life lesson, Corey. You're spot on. I think more so this year, though. I mean, I know more so this year because what these kids have had to go through, and I'm speaking strictly of the kids and the staff and the people here at St. Francis. What they've had to go through is challenging to say the least. And as we embark on our conference, yes, our goal every time we put that jersey on is to win that next game and to win a Northeast Conference championship. That won't change as long as I'm the head coach. However, the game of basketball has afforded, these young men the opportunity to create a brotherhood and a bond and understand that, in tough times, you need to lean on someone every once in a while, whether it's a coach or a player. And I think we've witnessed that, more so this year than any other year because of the challenge and the consistent, consistent struggle is probably the best way to go. Just daily, hey, are we good to practice today? Are we good to lift today? And learning how to overcome those moments of uncertainty, learning to overcome things that you really can't control, individual accountability and responsibility. There have been so many life lessons that we've been able to teach these kids. And again, they have been resilient. They have been fantastic. And, I think this year, more than anything, we're all going to look back as a program and as a team. 2020, 2021 is very unique. And at the end of the season, yes, the championship is always going to be what we shoot for, right? However, I want everybody to be healthy. The good thing that the kids that, the people in our program that have had a positive result, no one's sick. No one's, there's not, it's not life altering, right now. And that's what I want to hope at the end of the year. That's what I want to pray for. So I go to bed and make sure that the 19 players that are in my care, the 7 coaches, when we're finished this season, we want to try to win as many games as possible. But my end goal is that they're healthy, both physically and mentally, and that they're ready for that next step, whatever it might be.
So now you're entering your part of the schedule where you're going to be playing teams back to back. Has there been any time that you can kind of rely on in your past where you've played the same team back to back, and how do you guys plan on handling that?
The closest we've come is several years back in the Northeast Conference. They did what they called Rivalry Week, where you played on a Thursday, Saturday. So our rival was Robert Morris. So we played Thursday at Robert Morris, and then they come up and play us on Saturday or vice versa. But there was a day in between. And you played at your home site and their home site. But playing teams in the same venue, you look across college basketball, and teams are blowing a team out one night, and they're coming back, and they're losing the game by 2 points the next night or 3 points the next night. I really don't have anything to fall back on. And so this is going to be very unique for us also. How do we bounce back? We have a plan in place, but we're not going to know how well that plan is going to be executed to actually go through it. And that's one of the unknowns that we have to face as a staff and to face as a program here is how do we handle those back-to-backs? And, certainly, there are no easy games in the Northeast Conference, but going on the road against a team that's picked to win the league, that is well coached and talented, we'll have our work cut out for us. But I'm anxious to see how we respond. And again, just thankful we have an opportunity to talk about competing on the court again.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I've noticed that a ton all over the country. You'll have a blowout one night. Like NJIT goes to Vermont and loses at Vermont, which nobody wins there. And then they beat them the next day. Why is that happening, Rob? What is going on in 18 to 22-year-old kids' minds in a 40-minute game that you will see? I mean, I go back to Lucky's senior year when you guys blew out LIU and then you go up there and you lose, and Osborne has 2 points in that playoff. How does that dynamic change from one day to the next with kids when you might have a blowout one day and then you lose the next day?
I just think that's short turnaround. As a staff, you don't have a ton of time to film. If you play a 7:00 game, and the game's over at 9:30, by the time you get cleaned up and get back to the locker room or back to the hotel, you want to make sure that the guys are well rested and and ready to to go the following day, usually less than 24 hours later. And so you don't have a chance to make a ton of corrections.
Do the kids get overconfident? When you beat a team by 20, do you just go into the next day inevitably and say, hey, we're going to beat this team again?
I think the short turnaround, because now you don't have, as a coaching staff, you don't have an opportunity. Because if you beat a team by 20, there's a way you can nitpick the film, or you can. But again, you're dealing with kids that are just coming off the court that say, "God, Coach, we just beat these guys by 25. We'll just play the same way and we'll get the same result."
Yeah.
And again, in a gym too, we're dealing with gyms where, a lot of times, you talk about play calls and scouting report and personnel. You play a team, but then a lot of times you don't play that team again for another couple of weeks. So there's a refresh on, hey, can this kid go left? Or this kid go right? Is this kid a good shooter? Is this kid, so it's, there's so many things that, that over the course of less than 24 hours, you have to adjust to that. Yeah. It's, again, I think it's 18 to 22-year-olds, and even some of the adjustments that are made as coaching staff. Coaches are responsible in all this too. Who can make those adjustments in a shorter period of time to get your team ready to play?
Anything else?
Good. No, I'm good.